Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Empowering Empathy. We have Mr. Brian Markham here.
What's up, people?
Founder of Golden Technology and expert on all things Brian.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Brian. Welcome back, everyone out there.
Yes. How was your weekend, Michael?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We got rid of a whole lot of, almost decades worth of stuff in our garage, in our basement at the garage sale. So
yeah, you guys did that, the whole Route 127. Is that what it is?
yeah, the 127 sale, the world's largest garage sale.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
This goes all the way from Michigan to Kentucky.
I think it's like the whole country from top to bottom.
Is it really?
At least in big chunks.
Oh, man.
Anywho, we unloaded a whole pickup truck and an entire 6x12 trailer full of stuff.
Did you make any money?
I don't have the exact count, but yeah, I think Amber did pretty well. So
okay, cool.
We'll take it. We only came back with a small Jeep cargo compartment full of stuff, so I'm happy about that.
So you went from a trailer to a hatchback?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's all for it.
Hey, I'm gonna go off AWOL here for a quick. We'll get to our subject in a second, but I just want to do a little quick promotion on your behalf here. So I don't know if you all know, but Mr. Michael Walker is a fine musician and artist with the band called The Summit.
If you say so.
And The Summit is moving up the ranks pretty good in the music industry. You open up, what bands do you open up for on a regular basis?
This year we've done tour dates with ZZ Top and Collective Soul primarily. We're playing with Driving and Crying this week.
Very good, very good. So, but Michael Walker's got a local show coming up
this Thursday at the Ludlow Garage.
The Ludlow Garage. If anybody's went to UC, you'll know where that is.
Yes.
Yes, what time does that show start?
8:30.
8:30 p.m. this Thursday.
Yes.
There you go. Sorry.
Thanks for mentioning. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about all of Brian's dirty laundry.
Oh my goodness.
So
these are turned into more like therapy sessions for me than actual like any interesting knowledge for anybody.
No, it's good, and that's what people are interested in is people's trials and tribulations and learning from failures and mistakes and how we move on past them.
Yeah.
So why are we here? I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to rein us in. This is Empowering Empathy. This is the live stream where we talk about the power of compassion, personal growth, and professional success. Last time, Brian, we talked to you and Rishi about the rebirth of Golden. We coined as Golden Technology 2.0. We talked about some of the things that had transpired in kind of the, let's call it the failure of the initial iteration of the company, as well as
failure to launch,
what was going on in your personal and professional life in the interim. And so I thought maybe this time we could discuss how the rebirth of the company kind of transpired, and more importantly, what were some of the things that you learned from the previous iteration, and things that were going on in your life that led you to successful futures with Golden at that time.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, I said in between the first one and second one, I learned what I did right and I learned what I did wrong. One thing that I learned that I did wrong was probably one of the biggest aha moments. And I'm sharing this because if you're trying to start your own business, or even like if you're trying to be a great employee, or just you're in sales and you're trying to build your own sales desk, this was a big learning opportunity for me. So I joined the company where I met Rishi. Was commuting to Columbus every single day out of Cincinnati. Thought I was going to move back to Columbus. It's where I grew up. What's up, Columbus peeps? And I went to a conference from a business coach, Brad Sugars. I don't remember his name. Anyhow, he got up, and it was about, I'm guessing, probably 1,500, 2,000 people in the room. And he said, all right, everybody stand up. And we all stood up. This is the beginning of his presentation. And, he's just got this cool Australian guy's accent. And he's like, all right, if you're an employee, do me a favor and please sit down. So I was an employee at the time. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with employees. Employees, you're kind of in training maybe to start your own business, or, you just don't want the stress and anxiety of business ownership, which you totally get. And trust me, after this time in my life, I totally get. But He said, I want you to sit down. So that was the first group of people that sat down. There was only a handful of us. Most of the people in the audience were business owners. So then the second time he's like, all right, tomorrow morning, if you decided to wake up and you're like, you know what, I am not going to show up for work today. He's like, you know what, I told my spouse that, look, I just don't feel like working today. I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to check my phone calls. He said, if your business would be negatively affected, sit down. And it was like, shoom, like 2/3, 3/4 of that whole 1,500 people sat down right away. And I was like, holy crap, that's you'd think you'd be able to take some time off. Unexpected time off is what he called it. And he's like, okay. And then he takes this a step further. He's like, okay, now tomorrow you wake up and you tell your spouse, you know what, honey, we're going to go on a 2-week vacation. I'm not checking email. I'm not checking voicemail. I'm not going to do anything on business for the next 2 weeks. If your business would be negatively affected, sit down. And you can imagine almost the majority of people, shablama, they all sat down. So then there was only maybe, I don't know, out of these 1,500, maybe 50 people sitting in the room, 100 still standing. And he's like, okay, now tomorrow morning you wake up and you're like, you know what, honey, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to take 3 months off. I'm going to hand the keys to the kingdom to somebody else. And if your business would be negatively affected, sit down. It was like, wham. And the only thing, there was like literally like 3 people out of these 2,000 people that were still standing.
Sure.
So I was like, holy crap, how do these guys do it? And I look over and it's the founder who brought me there of the company that I'm working with. And my first instinct was, yeah, cockroach, it's because I'm doing all the work, you know.
Of course.
But there was other people in that organization, i.e. Rishi, many other people. There was a CEO actually between me and the founder that was really good, Sanjay. He was an awesome CEO. That was a great company. But I just went, man, I want to be like that dude. You know, I want to be, the idea is to start a business so you have the freedom to be able to do things that you want to do in life. If you love what you do, which I do love what I do, I still want to have balance. I still want to spend time with kids, wife, travel. So I want to be like that dude. He could take 3 months off and his business would not be affected. So this coach got up there and he drew this Gartner quadrant. And if you don't know what a Gartner quadrant is, it's just a big plus sign. And it's used in business all the time and to explain how people evolve in different types of business. But in the top left-hand corner of the plus sign, he wrote mom and pop shop. And he's like, everybody starts out in the mom and pop shop. And they start out where see a need, fill a need. That's what he called it. See a need, fill a need. See a need, fill a need. You go up, you go, okay, here's a client that wants my product or my service. Okay, here's my product or my service. Transaction complete. Next transaction. Next transaction. It's transactional-based business.
Reactive.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to get started that way. You have to. You have to wear all these hats. But the problem is the moment you take a day off, the business takes a day off, right?
Sure.
So then he's like, the next evolving process is down to the bottom left of that plus sign quadrant. And he called this payroll, which basically means
now you have employees.
Now you have employees.
Yeah.
Right? But he said the problem with that quadrant is you still are the hub of the wheel. You still own the client's relationships. You still close the deals. You still handle putting the fires out on a regular basis. You are still constantly, what he said, which is kind of harsh, is you're working to make sure the other people are paid. You're working to make sure payroll is met. So
you're owning a job, not owning a business.
That's right. And you're under the stress of providing for these 4 other families that, you know, you're working for. And then he moved over to the bottom right quadrant and he called it SSE, self-sustaining enterprise. And he's like, this is where, if you own a self-sustaining enterprise, this is where you aren't the hub of the wheel anymore. Other people are making the decisions. You push decisions off. You delegated. You've empowered people, i.e. empowered empathy, and you give them the authority to make the decisions. And it's hard. Most people fail at that because they don't want to let go control. They don't want to let go control the quality of the product or the service or the quality of the relationship with the client. And he's like, once you get to that point, after a period of time with that, then you move up to the top right-hand quadrant, which is an investor. where now you're buying companies. You know,
Right.
you're not just doing day to day. You're not the CEO, but you're the founder. You're buying organizations.
Yeah.
So what I learned, which is incredibly important if you're trying to start a business, or even if you're trying to open up a desk of sales and recruiting or whatever, is the first time around with Golden, I got stuck in the bottom left-hand quadrant.
Right.
I was making payroll. I still remember this day, like, thank God we closed those 2 deals. Now we can make payroll in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God that, man, I hope that check comes in from this client because I got to make payroll this week. And it was constantly over and over again in that method. And then eventually, guess what happened? The check stopped coming in.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I had to fire my friends.
Right.
And I lost them all. And
Yeah.
I lost the relationships. And I'll take that on. That's my fault. I was not a good business person back then. So when we started back up again, Rishi came a-calling. And as I said, I felt like I hit the lottery. I knew that if I controlled all the levers in the business, I would always control all the levers in the business.
Right.
So I purposely kind of left Rishi out on an island. He didn't like it very much, to be very honest with you. I still had to stay employed. I still had to provide. I was still sending the money to India. Plus, I was providing for a young family of 5 of us. So I still had to work. And he continued to build this organization on his own. And I remember to this day, he would call me up, 10.5-hour time difference, mind you. He'd like, boss, please talk to this client. They won't go up another $3 an hour, and we're going to lose this deal. You need to talk to this client. Nope, you talk to the client. Boss, please sign this master service agreement. They want net 90 or net 30. We're net 45. They won't pay. They won't sign the contract. Please talk to this vendor and get this. Nope, you talk to them. And over, it was all these different things. Whereas in the past, I would jump right on those things, use my massive persuasive skills, and close the deal, right? And which I wasn't that persuasive. But I purposely stayed out of the day-to-day. And I gave the fishing pole and not the fish to Rishi and his team. That right there was one of the biggest learning lessons that I've learned in business. One is I don't believe in side hustles. I do believe if you want a fun little pet project that you do on the weekends that you enjoy doing with your spouse or with a significant other, or it's something that you want to do long term. But the only reason why my side hustle worked was because I gave Rishi the full authority. And basically I was an investor. That's pretty much what I was for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's lesson learned one. And then the second one is get out of the way. Just don't be the hub of the wheel. You got to let other people do decisions. Even in your job, if you're a W-2 employee, if you're a manager, I guarantee you, young managers, if they're working for, Fortune 500 companies, the biggest mistake most people do is they don't know how to delegate and elevate. They don't know how to, here, you do this work, not me. And if you have a problem, figure it out yourself. It's what we, if you want to give grief to Gen Zs for not whatever, I blame us as parents because we didn't empower them to make the decision. We made all their decisions for them. So empower. Give the power away. Don't be the hub of the wheel and let the business go. It's going to take a little bit longer because they got to learn, but eventually it will grow. So there you go. That's one of the biggest lessons I learned in between 1.0 and 2.0.
So it sounds like it goes right along with our show theme here. A lot of that empowering going on. So let me ask you a follow-up question. Your primary strategy, I guess, to get out of that quadrant and move onward and upward was to empower Rishi and kind of force him along so that you weren't the hub of that wheel. And I know you alluded to how it can take longer. What are some of the things that that you did or that the company did at that time to ensure that progress continued? That you not just got to the next quadrant, but on.
Sure.
On
yeah,
forward.
we're actually. To be very candid, I'm just at that next stage where I'm getting up into that top right-hand quadrant. And I've been blessed in that regard. So early on, Rishi made a lot of mistakes, and so the stress level of me.
As do we all.
As do we all. Yeah. I mean, remember that story about when he came to America and we had 10 consultants, we went down to 4.
Yeah.
That was because of just a lack of experience on Rishi's part dealing with a particular client or how to manage a situation. But we learned from it. So the first thing that I had to have is I had to have patience and lots of vodka. No, no. You had to like, you gotta have like to start your own business. You gotta have some guts, and you gotta be a little loony. But as we moved into this self-sustaining enterprise, we were there for the first 6, 7, 8 years. I was given the authority to that. And then COVID hit, and prior to COVID even, I got introduced to Mike Rice, who you guys have all got to know on one of the earlier podcasts. And him and I are cut from the same cloth, same belief systems, everything. He was a CEO of a company out of Des Moines, Iowa. And I thought, okay, here's now an opportunity for me to gain, give some equity of my business away, candidly speaking, to give him a piece of golden technology eventually down the road. But I'm going to jump up into that top right-hand quadrant, and I'm going to become an investor. So we're going through that transition right now. We're looking at buying companies. We're looking at we're entertaining opportunities of companies that are a little bit smaller than us that we're going to bolt on to our company. But it's been kind of fun now. So I'm no longer the CEO of Golden. I don't even like my title. It sounds cheesy. Chairman, whatever that, founder. I don't know. I hate those terms. I don't mind founder. Chairman just sounds like not me.
The original Goldener? I don't know.
The original Goldener. Yes, stay golden, pony
B.
boy.
Arthur? We could call you that.
No, absolutely not. No. So anyhow, moving on to that, I'm always keeping an eye on that top right-hand quadrant, that self-sustaining the investor side. And eventually we'll get there. But at 52, I'm still kind of in between self-sustaining enterprise and investor.
Sure.
That's you.
Always learning, always progressing, right?
That's right. Yeah, and then there was a lot of other things that benefited greatly. I mean, obviously finding this marketing thing has been fabulous, and a lot of this stuff, you should see everything that's going on that Michael's doing. We've hired a VP of sales that's brought in some amazing business development managers. Rishi now has like 35 people in India, plus, I don't know, 6 here. We've got a staff of 35, 45, 55 people in corporate, and then 110 out at client sites. So a lot of those pieces I don't take credit for. It's from hiring the right people in those positions.
I think we'd probably be a little remiss if we didn't give a shout to Miss Sharon. Everybody out there, find a Sharon and hire her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's funny. I do have to say, so Sharon is my executive admin, and she's more than that. She's like a sister, and she's just been we were in one of our EOS sessions, and you said this, Michael. Do you remember what you said? Maybe not. I remember, because we were going through what were some of the game changers for Golden. One was putting in EOS, which we'll talk about someday.
Yep.
One was hiring, VPs of marketing and sales and delivery.
Right.
One was the COVID PPP money. But then you stopped and you're like, actually, I think hiring Sharon was one of the big game changers, because you got to experience. You want to talk about a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, in those days, I was still a vendor, if you will.
No, you were more than that.
I know, but I was basically the outsourced marketing department, and much smaller staff. It was a little bit of the Wild West in the office here, because everybody was kind of on their islands doing their thing and wearing a lot of hats, and everybody was reporting to you primarily, and I'm sure that was enough to handle just to meet with everybody once a week and figure out what was going on and what needed to be done and where we were going, much less have an eye on the future. And then Sharon was here, and I didn't know, because I was not technically an employee. I wasn't at every meeting at that point. And all of a sudden Sharon was here, and things started to be a lot more organized, and like people were where they were supposed to be, and there were all these meeting invites, and it was a stark change, but also very welcome.
It's all part of that delegate and elevate. And she was a total game changer, and she knows it. She came in as an executive admin working in the Fortune 500 C-level office space.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate to get her. She's tough on me, so I love her. But I also, but at the same time, she's taken this ADHD entrepreneur brain and added some organization to it and structure to it.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get her in on one of these podcasts soon.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place
Yeah.
to segue for the day. We got plenty more to talk about in the coming weeks, so be sure to join us next week, next Wednesday, once again for another live episode of Empowering Empathy. But we are going to get on out of here, and we will see you next time.